Hello, hello. If you're new here, I am delighted to meet you. If you're not, welcome back to my channel. I'm Jen, and today I'm gonna show you what I eat, exactly what I eat on a carnivore diet that helped me improve my skin from looking like this to looking like this. I've struggled with psoriasis since I was 7 years old. Now my skin has been clear for over a year, and I've been off medication for about 8 months. The carnivore diet is absolutely what healed me from that, from the inside out. I am so grateful, and I will not stop shouting it from the rooftops. I feel like it's really simple to say, it's the carnivore diet that did it. Do a carnivore diet. Basically, I just eat meat and eggs. That's it. Super easy. You don't need any guidance or any help for that, right? But yet, people seem to have a lot of questions about that, and I understand. They want to know what that really looks like, and they have questions about how you can accommodate that if you're working, if you're traveling, if you're on a budget. Well, today I'm gonna give you some of that information, and I really hope you'll find this helpful. For breakfast on day one, I scrambled 2 eggs in bacon grease and added salt for flavor. I served the eggs with 7 ounces of leftover ribeye that I had in the fridge. It was a very filling and satisfying breakfast. For lunch, I decided to cook up another ribeye. This one I made using my sous vide, which gets your steak to the perfect temperature every time. Once it was done sous videing, I seared both sides in hot bacon grease for 2 minutes on each side until it had a nice brown crust. Then I sprinkled on a 1/4 teaspoon of pluck organ blend, which is made of beef liver, spleen, kidney, and heart. It gives me a bunch of extra vitamins and minerals without changing the flavor of the meat. And I sprinkled on a little salt. Look at this beauty. Remember how I said the sous vide gets your steak to the perfect temperature every time? Well, I like mine medium rare, and look how perfectly this came out. I'll eat half for lunch today and save the rest for tomorrow. Dinner was some cold leftover burger patties. Easy peasy, just like I like it. Here are my macros for the day. I ate 1,947 calories, 162 grams of protein, and 142 grams of fat. 66% of my calories were from fat. I know that because I plugged it into a macro calculator that I built. You can use it too by going to delightedtomeetyou.com/calculator. Simply plug in your fat grams and protein grams, and you'll get your total fat percentage as well as feedback about that target depending on your goals. It's 5 in the morning. I'm headed to the gym and then to work, so I'm just gonna grab some boiled eggs to eat after the gym and some leftover steak for lunch. I am not a biohacker, but one thing I do try to do is store my leftovers in glass, especially if I'm going to reheat them. I peeled these eggs for breakfast at work, and you can see that I overcooked them a bit. They have that weird gray ring around the yolks. Oh well, they still taste good with a little salt. For lunch, I warmed up the other half of the ribeye I cooked yesterday. Yes, I do use a microwave. But again, I do try to never microwave in plastic. And here's a hack that I love. When you want to reheat but not overcook your food, decrease the power on the microwave. I turned this down from 100% to 80%. I cut my ribeye up into chunks and ate it at my desk while I caught up on work tasks. For dinner, I'm gonna cook up some chopped up chuck roast and some chicken wings. Both of these things are completely frozen solid. You can see the chuck roast, I chopped it previously, but it's basically in a huge mass right now, so that will get thawed some in the air fryer. And I often cook my meals from frozen, so there's no prep involved. It's really easy. It's one of my favorite ways to make carnivore much simpler. So I'm just gonna start by preheating my air fryer. The chicken wings will take longer to cook than the chuck roast, so I put them in first. After 10 minutes, I salted and flipped the chicken and added the chuck roast. I set the air fryer to cook for an additional 10 minutes. Halfway through that cooking time, I separated the chuck roast chunks so they would get fully cooked on all surfaces, and then I simply added salt and had myself a delicious meal. Here are my macros for day 2. I had 2,147 calories, 165 grams of protein, 161 grams of fat. My fat percentage was 69%. It's about 6:15 in the morning and I just got home from the gym and I'm actually pretty hungry. So I'm gonna try to cook up some frozen chicken legs in the air fryer. These guys got pretty stuck together, certainly more than I would have liked. I didn't mean to do that, so we'll see if I can get them apart. I was able to get 3 of them apart, so that's how many I cooked. Just like last night, I'm cooking these from completely frozen. I put them in the air fryer for 10 minutes. And while the chicken was cooking, I added some eggs to the Instant Pot to make them hard-boiled. You're technically supposed to put the eggs on the wire rack inside the Instant Pot, but somehow I lost mine. I added about 1.5 cups of water and then cooked on manual pressure for about 2 minutes. Then I let them sit in there for about 4 additional minutes and then put them into an ice bath to stop the cooking. Meanwhile, the chicken is looking pretty good after its first 10 minutes of cooking, but I like to check the internal temperature to make sure that they do get to 165 degrees, especially since they started out frozen solid. These are nowhere near ready. After 10 more minutes in the air fryer, they're getting close, but they need a few more minutes. This chicken leg on the left is taking its sweet time, and it's still not quite done. But the other 2 are fully cooked, so I'll have those for breakfast and save the other one for later after it cooks a little longer. And here's my breakfast. 2 chicken legs and 2 eggs, with some salt, of course. For lunch, I decided to cook up some more chopped chuck roast. I got this one from my favorite source, which is Milagro Ranch. Look how beautiful this chuck roast is. I cut it in half and decided to freeze one half to later sous vide and chop the other half into chunks for the air fryer. This is more than I needed to eat today, so I saved half of these chunks in the freezer for later and cooked 10 ounces for my lunch today. I placed the chunks on the preheated air fryer grill, cooked them for 4 minutes on one side, then salted them, stirred them around, and cooked them for an additional 3 minutes. Look how delicious and steamy they turned out. For dinner, I couldn't help myself. I sous vide another ribeye. Just like before, I got my bacon grease super hot and then seared both sides of the steak for 2 minutes. I seasoned with pluck, regular salt, and smoked salt. This steak was 20 ounces. I ate half of it and saved the other half for later. Here are my macros for day 3. I ate 2,350 calories, 200 grams of protein, and 167 grams of fat. That's 65% of my calories from fat. For the record, I don't always track my food. I just did that for your benefit so I could include it in this video. The only thing I'm really trying to pay attention to these days is the amount of food I'm eating. I try to keep it between 1.5 and 2 pounds of meat per day because I know that I do have a tendency to overeat, and that's made it a little bit hard for me to meet my goal of losing a little bit of weight. So if I don't track using an app, then I at least keep track in my head of how many ounces of meat I eat a day. And for each egg, I consider that 1 ounce of meat. The other thing I have not been doing is adding extra fat to my meals. I just don't think that that helps me to achieve my body composition goals. And if you're wondering why I always eat 3 meals a day, it's because that's what works best for me. I know lots of people have success with intermittent fasting or even longer fasts, and I've tried it lots and lots of times, but every time I do, I start feeling a little bit restricted and end up overeating again. That may just be because of my history of binge eating, but regardless, it's still an issue for me to do things that feel like restriction. So I eat 3 meals a day and make sure that I'm at least eating 1.5 pounds of meat, and that seems to help keep me right on track. This was a pretty typical example of what I eat most of the time. You can see that it's really just simple. It's not that expensive the way I do it because I often include things like chicken and eggs. I don't always just eat ribeyes for every meal. And even when I do eat a ribeye, I often only eat half and then I save the rest and eat it leftover. I admire people that do fancy recipes and they just go all out, but I just don't have the energy or mental bandwidth to do that. So I like to keep it super duper simple. I pretty much only ever season with Redmond real salt. I cook with the few things that I can in my apartment because I don't have a grill or a smoker since I live in a loft, and it just works perfectly for me. I often eat with my fingers or on the go. I don't mind that either. Everything that I eat is very portable and can easily be taken with me to work, on a road trip, anything like that. Not only is all of this food incredibly delicious, it's nutritious and has completely healed my body from the inside out. So I have no complaints. One last thing I want to share with you is exactly how I clean my cast iron skillet after using it. I know many people say you shouldn't get them wet or use soap, but the instructions that came with my skillet actually do say to use soap. But what I really love to use is this tallow soap from Spearhead Soaps. I just rub it really good, then I scrub it with a scrubber brush if needed, but today nothing was really sticking on, so I just wipe it with a rag, rinse it off, and it's good to go. I really hope you found this video useful. If so, please like and subscribe, and catch me on Instagram where we can connect every day.